Hey guys, my name's Max Convexity. It's a beautiful day here in Austin. Thanks for tuning into my channel. I have a great video planned for you today called Everything I Needed to Learn About High Yield Investing I Learned in Kindergarten. Subtitle is, What the Heck Does Santa Claus Have to Do with NAV Erosion? Alright, so for this video we're going to do a little story time. As you guys know, lots of times story time is the way I like to illustrate points. So let's go back to 1972, John F. Kennedy Elementary School, kindergarten class. My best friend's name was Alan. Alan and I had figured out that Santa was a myth. Santa was not a real thing. There was no man that flew around on a sleigh and brought presents and put them under the tree. We figured it out. My sister was still a believer. So were the other kids in my kindergarten class except me and Alan. Well, my mom, when she caught wind of it, that I'd figured it out, she threatened to beat me within an inch of my life if I told my sister or the other kids in my class. And it felt good to be on the, in the inside group, the group that had the special knowledge and where the rest of the kids, didn't understand something. I would say most of the class believed in Santa. And Santa truthers would always say, well, who's eating the milk and cookies? And how did the presents get under the tree? It's the same way now most people on YouTube believe in NAV erosion. It's not that there isn't something depleting the ETF's NAV. Just like someone or something is really leaving gifts under the tree, it's just not a little fat man in a red suit that drives up to your house on a sleigh. It's important to understand why something is happening to you. So if you don't want whatever that is that's happening to you to happen again, you can prevent it in the future. There are still plenty of believers out there on the internet about NAV erosion. Jay Pestruccelli, the fund manager that set off a lot of this, he hasn't done it intentionally, but his funds have got this debate started about NAV erosion. He's been on multiple social networks and channels and explained, how this is a myth many different ways. He's very patient, very kind, but still, it's not getting through. Just like there's one girl that I think in 5th grade she still believed in Santa Claus. So that you still have those cases. My channel could easily have 5 times the subscribers that it does now if I would just pander to all the haters out there and just go for controversy and say, oh man, these funds, they're all right, but they have too much NAV erosion, and if I'd like these funds a lot if they didn't have NAV erosion. You hear that all the time. And I could easily have more subscribers, but I want to be true to who I am, and I'm trying to bring an experience that I have that maybe not everyone else has. As I've told you guys a million times, I was in wealth management and I sold covered calls for high net worth individuals and planned covered call campaigns. I've known about covered calls for 40 years. I've done a million of them. So that's my knowledge that I bring to the table here. So, and that's what got me into this, because when I started watching these, I started watching Retire on Dividends channel, and he was just getting bum rushed by all these people that, were just NAV erosion this, NAV erosion that. Well, that's why I got involved, because as an option trader, you're very aware of what erosion really is and it really isn't. Because as an option trader, erosion is usually what causes you to lose money if you own options. And but at the same time, if you're selling options, you're monetizing the decay. So you're very keenly aware of what NAV erosion and decay is and what it is not. And I can tell you, it's not what these funds are doing. That this is a myth, okay? But just like the presents getting put under the tree, sure, there's something happening to your fund. I mean, there's something causing the NAV to drop by 5% every month. So let's just do a quick review session. I've got a lot of new subscribers out there, so maybe not everyone's heard this, but the dividend is paid out of the NAV, not just for these high yield funds, for any fund that pays a dividend. It always comes out of the NAV. From a semantics perspective, when somebody says something erodes or decays, it describes something that is going away and not coming back, being on a terminal course. When the hill erodes, there's nothing left, and it's not a hill anymore, it's flat. When something is depleted, it implies something that disappears temporarily and then is built back up again, like dividends. The way these funds work is they make money trading options, and then once a month they take the money they made and they pay it out of the NAV. They take it out of the NAV and they give you a check for it, so it goes in your pocket. It didn't disappear. It just went from the investment to your pocket. So it's not eroded. It's not, you know, all it did, but it does temporarily make the NAV deplete. The reason we say deplete is because it gets built back up again as the next month goes by, and they've made more money trading options. There's a lot of fan fiction out there on the internet and a bunch of bad information about these high yielders. And, people think they're Ponzi schemes and mathematically guaranteed to go to zero and blah, blah, blah. And, I would be right there with all these people if these funds didn't sell options and earn money off the time decay. They're just selling options, earning money off the time decay, and then giving it to the customer out of the NAV. It's a business. If they were, I would be concerned that they were actually true eroders or decayers if it was somebody like CYA, the ETF that just went out of business a few months ago. It decayed to zero. They bought options. UVXY, it's just reverse split after reverse split after reverse split. They buy options. When you buy options, the options themselves decay, and the decay comes out of the NAV. And that's the kind of erosion and decay that implies going to zero. I mean, I'm an expert at having assets erode on me. I mean, I've had plenty of assets erode on me. If these were eroding, I would be the first to tell you. So knowledge is power back then even. I knew back then to quit writing letters to Santa Claus, just start dropping hints around mom and dad. I need to look in my parents' closet. If I was trying to figure out where the presents I was getting from Santa, I would just go look in my parents' closet, or I would look in the trunk of my dad's car. Alan would come help me look for presents around Christmas. And at one time he said, hey, let's get your sister, see if she knows. And I go, my sister, she's not going to be any help to us. She still believes in Santa Claus. So I don't dislike my sister. I wasn't mocking her. I don't think she's stupid. But at the same time, she's not a good source on Santa information. The same way, large parts of the internet are not great sources for high yield information. This one little thing about how the NAV behaves and where the dividend comes from, this one thing is such a vitally important thing to understand. And if you don't understand it, if you misunderstand it, you're never going to understand these funds. And these funds can be a great source of diversification and, and a great investment. They can suit a lot of people. I just don't want people to have bad information. So, why this even matters is because a lot of people hear erosion decay and they just automatically stay away from these funds. Oh no, I don't want one of those funds. It erodes and decays. And here's an example in real life, okay? If you're one of those people and you see a chart of JEPY versus JEPI, well, JEPY, which is the Defiance Fund, 6 months ago opened at 20 and is now at 17, okay? JEPI 6 months ago was at 55 and it's now at 57. So you'd say, well, I don't want JEPI. Look, it's lost $3 in 6 months. Well, yeah, its NAV has lost $3 because it's being depleted by the dividend, but you have to look at the total return. The total return tells a different story. Check this out. So here it is with just the NAV return. I saw an influencer yesterday show this chart and say, this thing's just in a persistent downtrend. I just wouldn't want this. You can't just look at the price return, especially on the high yielders, but especially you have to look at the total return. So you look at the total return and, JEPI is miles ahead of JEPY. It's like 10% ahead. It may not look like a bunch, but the difference between 9.5% and 8.25% is like a 15% difference. It's pretty significant. It's never been behind. And in fact, when the market was down in October, JEPY lost a lot less. It only lost half as much. JEPY has been a better investment by any measure. But if you didn't know any better, and if you were still a NAV erosion truther, you would miss out on this. The reason total return matters is because total return is how your assets compound and how your money saves for retirement. The idea is that you work hard all your life, you save your money, you invest, hopefully you get 8, 9, 10% total return, and it compounds, and by the time you're 60, hopefully you have $1 million, $2 million, right? That's the way it works. assets compound on total return. They don't compound on NAV return. So NAV doesn't tell the whole story. It only tells part of the story. Remember Max's theorem. Total return equals dividend return plus NAV return. You have to factor the whole thing in. You've heard my story about a taco stand in the parking lot of a hardware store, right? Well, the taco stand's making tons of money, but the hardware store got put out of business because of Amazon. No one goes to mom and pops anymore. Amazon put them out of business, so the hardware store had to close down. Well, the taco stand went bankrupt too, because the taco stand doesn't exist by itself. It only exists in the parking lot of the hardware store. You can't sell options in isolation. You're selling options on assets. So the option selling strategies are somewhat dependent on the fortunes of the parent asset themselves. My rule of thumb is take the dividend of whatever ETF you want. Say it's a 50% dividend. Okay, say Coney's paying a 50% dividend. Okay, that means Coinbase, their parent asset, needs to be up 100%, not just this year, but every year if you don't want to see any NAV, what looks like NAV decay and erosion. It isn't, but what looks like it. So think about that. You just have to, so one way around it is, just be sure to get the high yield funds. Only choose the high yield funds on stocks that go up all the time. Just choose stocks like Nvidia. The problem with that is if you have a way to tell in advance which stock's going to go up, you tell me about it and then we'll both know. There's no difference between Tesla and Nvidia. It's just that Nvidia has had a better last year than Tesla. So that's making, Nvidia's investment look a lot better than Tesla's. But as far as the actual, nuts and bolt different, there's no difference. It's just like there are no bad dogs, there's just bad owners. The same goes for high yield funds. There's no bad high yield funds, there's just bad underlines. So here's the game plan. All you got to do to stop this from happening to you is just pick stocks that go up all the time. All right, that's the solution. Just find a stock that's going to be up 100% every year and only sell covered calls on that stock. No more problems, right? Of course, if you knew what stock was going to be up 100% every year, you wouldn't have any problems anyway. That's a whole different story. The true solution is education. The more education you get on these funds, the more interviews with Jay that you see, the more research you do on your own, hopefully people will become comfortable with these in the future. I'm here to help people understand and educate. I'm in like 4 different Discords. You can hit me up on any of those Discords, send me a direct message request, hit me up in there, and I'd be happy to try to explain this better to you if there's something you didn't understand. I don't dislike the other YouTube channels that aren't on the same page yet, just like I didn't, dislike the other kids in kindergarten that maybe weren't up on the Santa, on the Santa truth yet. We all have to get there in our own time, in our own way, and I'd be glad to help in any way I can. So, like I say, leave me a question in the comments, or hit me up in Discord if you want to talk. We can even talk in voice channel or whatever. I'm here to help everyone understand. But yes, education is the solution. This is not financial advice. This is for fun and entertainment only. Talk to your own planner. Hey, and guess what? Your own planner might be a good person to ask about these covered call funds. Say, hey, I'm hearing this. I'm hearing the Erosion Decay. Ask your planner what he says. Get a second opinion from him. Like I said, I'm not a planner, so be sure to check with one that is. Although, like I always mention, I was a planner for years, and I feel like I'm somewhat qualified to at least talk about it. But I'm not a financial planner right now, so for sure, check with your own financial planner. A good financial planner is worth its weight in gold. You guys have a great day. If you don't mind it on the way out, maybe hit the thumbs up. Maybe subscribe if you hadn't. That'd be great. I never remind people to do thumbs up or subscribe, but so I'm going to today. So if you don't mind, just hit the thumbs up on your way out the door. I appreciate it so much, and you guys have a wonderful day.